good to be here with y'all. It really is. So we're going to have a great conversation.
Yeah, well, we're thankful to have you here. And as they were reading out you're like, actress, Grammy Award winning. I'm sure there are some people that are wondering, what does that have to do with health?
Nothing.
Well, that's not true, and we're going to talk about your book. But you grew up in a family around medicine and healthcare.
Yeah, I did.
And your mama was a nurse.
Yes, my mother is a retired registered nurse. Her brother, Charles, is a family practice physician. His son, my first cousin, is a physician. He works in emergency medicine. Mm-hmm. Then I have a cousin named Chris Pullins, who is a family practitioner, I believe, at Mayo Clinic in the Phoenix area. And I thought I wanted to go into medicine. I wanted to go into obstetrics and gynecology. And I was like, I'll be a hospital administrator. And I actually worked in medical records. And just so y'all know, at the holidays, there were lots of initials and itis and all that stuff being talked about at the table. And it wasn't until I took medical terminology that I was like, oh my gosh, I know what y'all were talking about. So, all right, cool. That's my spiel about health and medicine.
But growing up with a nurse, does that mean growing up you also were in touch with your mental, emotional, physical health? Did you have it all together? Did you know what you were doing?
You know, it's amazing to grow up in a house where my mother made sure we were up to date on everything regarding physical health. But the health of our mental is not something that I started working on until I was in my 30s. But the symptoms of depression, once we traced everything back, started as early as the 7th grade. So that would have been about 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that means essentially, most of us know you from your global career with Destiny's Child. So that means you were dealing with depression every time you were on tour, recording an album.
Yeah.
How did you process that?
So family, I love my family. Great. I grew up in Rockford, Illinois. It's about 60 miles west of Chicago. If anybody here from Illinois or anybody watching, yes, come on! Illinois Unite, congratulations to the WNBA Chicago Sky.
They just won.
Yeah,
just got the notice.
Now, as it relates to depression in my career, I was too busy almost to be depressed. And I think it's like God sent me angels in the form of Beyonce and Kelly that kept me going. They didn't know really until the past few years of how really dark and heavy it was. I think Beyonce's mom knew, and I talked to her about it, and she was the one who talked to me first about therapy. I didn't know people of my hue went to therapy. And so I always kept that in the back of my head, and I'm thankful to Tina Knowles Lawson for letting me know, oh my gosh, it's okay to process pain.
So you just said what I assume is a big piece of your inner circle. Didn't know.
Yeah.
Did you know?
I didn't know until like certain symptoms that were like certain responses were out of my character. Irritability, even what I thought was paranoia, but it actually was me picking up on something that was going on in a circle of mine, betrayal. And I feel like there are certain things in relationships that can almost, when they say it can make you snap, but it was something already lying dormant anyway. Sweeping so much stuff under the rug, and then you have something that just makes you just kind of, unfortunately is a term, I don't know what the correct protocol or lingo, I know it's not to say someone snapped, psychotic, break. So
that I want to go to a part of the book that I marked because I thought it was really powerful, and it's at the beginning, and you said, I'd been talking publicly about my struggle with mental illness for more than a decade, but nobody knew how bad it really gotten. My platform was about depression, but you kept talking about it in the past. I had stopped talking about what was going on with me in the current, and you said I stopped checking in, so I was preparing to check out. And somehow only God can explain how. I picked up the phone and said, I don't feel safe. And then I said the strongest 3 words a person can say, I need help.
Yes.
What did that moment mean to you?
That moment meant I really wanted to live, but at the same time I was playing let's make a deal with God. I was saying, God, I've lived this great life. Well, I wasn't saying it like that. I was like, listen, I've lived a great life. What more do you have for me? I'm hopeless. As I write in the book, I was planning my funeral down to the orchids. Now, I'm not in that state of mind anymore, but I still want orchids 50 years from now, okay?
I took notes.
I'm 42,
Got it.
so in about 92, y'all start planning. Them orchids better be there.
Okay, I'm still here.
Yes, but those 3 words for a person to say, I need help, whether you are a CEO, some type of executive, or assisting someone, those are the strongest words that you can say. Now, you don't have to shout it from the mountaintop, but prayerfully you have a safe person that you can pull to the side like I did and say, I need help. Let's start looking for some places so I can go get treated.
And so this book, I'll be honest, it is a lot funnier than I thought it would be. Like, I really thought it was just going to be like this deep discussion of mental health. I mean, you kick it right off with some really interesting talk about real life, and I was cracking up. But you talk about checking in, and there are 3 things you hone in on.
Yeah.
You check in with God, you check in with yourself,
Yeah.
and you check in with others.
That's good.
Can you talk
That
about
is true.
those 3 and why those are the 3 distinct areas that you focus on?
Yes, ma'am. So, Doctor, I liken those to 3 pillars. I'm curious to that cameraman, is that a tripod or what is that? Are there 3?
Yeah, looks like it.
Like, you know what I mean? Yeah? So I liken it to so many of us found ourselves during the pandemic, we found ourselves having to put our phones or iPads, some with your laptops, but that phone on a tripod. So I look at it as those 3 pillars, checking in with yourself, checking in with others, and checking in with God. Now, if you notice, if one of those legs is longer than the other or shorter, it's kind of not stable. You can't put weight on it and you can't put pressure on it. And those 3 pillars, checking in with myself, checking in with others, and checking in with God, those have to be even and stable so that when pressure comes, I'm not wobbly, I can stand. Checking in with myself just simply looks like in the morning, checking in with me, how am I doing, affirming that I'm gonna have a great day no matter what life throws my way. I'm responsible by how I respond to life. I can't control what happens. Checking in with others, we found ourselves checking in with others more than ever before. Girl, how you doing? Or, now girl, you said you weren't gonna call that dude, so he's contributing to some of your pain. There are people that can hold you accountable, ladies and gentlemen. And then checking in with God is just simply, could be in the form of gratitude, whatever. I respect all cultures and all beliefs, all religions that's in this room and those that are watching. But it's checking in with that spiritual part, whether you're feeling overwhelmed or you're just simply wanting to, just show some gratitude.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the way
I do it every day.
The tripod.
I do it every day.
So you talk a lot about faith. And so I'm not even sure exactly how this question is going to come out, but essentially we all check in different ways.
Yeah.
We all believe in different things, but there's a common theme, and you said the hue of my skin, and I got married last year, and as we talked about, like, do we do, premarital counseling, and church came up, and like a pastor.
Yeah.
And there was this conversation, because I'm like, well, therapy, we need therapy. Like, we need to plan, right? And it's like, well, that's a whole different conversation. So how do you talk to people, particularly in the Black community, about what's that balance between faith and therapy.
Oh, honey, listen, they all go together, honey. Prayer and therapy, God and therapy, Jesus and therapy, whatever you want to call it, goes together. It goes together. Prayer is a weapon. Therapy is a strategy. I learned that from Dr. Anita Phillips because, you know, in certain areas of faith, you're just taught, pray about it. Drink communion, go to study, go to mass, whatever's going to be okay. Or you're taught, pray about it, but just don't talk about it because God's working on it. But I liken that to, now, whatever is under this rug, it's probably clean because this is like a stage. So this has all been swept. But our rugs at home, come on now, we vacuum on top of it. We take care of the surface of what's on top of it. But if y'all really, now unless you're like where you really clean, but not all of us have been lifting up that rug. There's old nickels under there, salt and pepper packets probably. Your dog who died 12 years ago, a hair plug from him or her is just somewhere under there. Because we're not cleaning, we're not taking care of the things because we're so used to just, suppressing it, sweeping it under. Oh, it's okay, this is a part of life. We don't grieve loss properly. And grieving loss is, y'all know, it's not necessarily the loss of a loved one, but we lost connection during the pandemic. We couldn't connect with people. I am a homebody, so I personally didn't care. But my heart went out to people who have to connect with humans, who they thrive and they get charged out of connecting with people. I was talking with a friend, Matt Ringel, backstage, and you're talking about children lost connection. They had to homeschool instead of being able to be on the college campus. People lost jobs. And the big thing, 700,000 people lost their lives.
Yes.
How are we grieving that individually, internally?
Yes. That conversation was going on a lot backstage.
I bet.
Even before you arrived, as some people were leaving the stage and others were coming on, there was a whole little congregation by the door talking, like my son is 12, my daughter's 14, and talking about the health and well-being of their children.
And kudos to everyone, and I got to meet the CEO of HLTH, of Health, and kudos to him for bringing us all together. And I hope that this has been good for our hearts. More so getting all this information, but I just hope connecting with each other has been good for our hearts, our souls and minds.
Well, it's something about health, and this has been consistent for as long as the conference has been going, that I've seen is each year there's lots of programming around whatever's new and we're talking about, but there's also this constant, like with the foundation and its impact threads, there's talk about inclusion and diversity, even before some of these things were coming to the surface in the last couple of years. And that actually brings me to something else in here that really sat with me, because in the health space in medicine, we often talk about doctors need to look like their patients. They need to understand their patients. We need to see role models that look like us, act like us. And you talked about Michelle is not your first name. And there was actually a process in which you were instructed, told, asked politely to go by your middle name. And so as we talk about really being our authentic selves and having people who look like us and sound like us talk about things that we understand in our lives, I'd love for you to share just a little bit about those kind of two selves and the labels that you talked about.
Thank you so much. Yes, my first name is Tanitra. My middle name is Michelle. And in marketing, they felt Michelle was more marketable, and it was posed, who would little girls most want to be like, Tanitra or Michelle? Now that kind of stung, because vice president is Kamala. We have our mayor in Atlanta is Keisha. So to tell me that my name might have been a little too spicy or a little too black. Now, my mother says I'm named after her. I'm going to blame it on the epidural, because her name's Anita, and I'm just trying to figure out how Tanitra and Anita. Mom, if you're watching, just tell us, like, how does that make it make sense? And she was really upset about that. I named you Tanitra, but I look at it as my family got Tanitra, and the world gets Michelle. But I'll probably say the past 10 years for sure, the world's definitely been getting Tanitra all the way through and through.
Well, we like her.
Thank you so much. And I like her too. I like Tanitra Michelle Williams a lot. And it's all right. I mean, Tanitra, everybody can say Michelle, so.
No, but I appreciate that. And,
Yeah.
you know, I think it says a lot that the global audience and impact that you've had, and yet it was always someone a little bit different. Mm-hmm. And I think that speaks volumes about where we were and where we even are. And so again, like as we are, you know, going throughout this conference for the next couple of days and talking about how do we make people healthier and better, I think it's absolutely vital that we meet the real them and not the version that's a little more palatable for marketing purposes. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we only have a couple minutes left, so I have a big question for you. But before that, I just wanted to say that when I read this, it's really dirty, and it's got like notes, like I really did read it. Yeah. I asked someone who knows both of us about you, and he said the most wonderful thing, and he said, you know what her superpower is? And that wasn't even the question I asked. His response is, do you know what her superpower is? And he said, you are the most real and relatable person he knows.
Who said it, girl?
Jonathan.
Really? Oh.
And it spoke to me in this way, and I felt like when I read this, you gave people the real you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You know, because the subtitle is How Getting Real About Depression Saved My Life and How It Can Save Yours as well. Now, there are some people who say things and say, I was just keeping it real, but it's cutting, it's hurtful. So the heart behind me keeping it real and always being real is to make impact and to help someone. I am not helping anybody by being fake. I am not helping anybody if I don't tell my story. Now, everybody does not have the assignment to do what I do. Everybody doesn't have your calling and assignment to do what you do. Everybody is not going to share their story from the rooftop. Maybe your calling and assignment is just to help somebody in your office or a couple people on your Zoom call. But I feel like I've been given a platform. If I can sing Bootylicious and Survivor and Independent Women, and when Jesus says yes in front of thousands of people, why can't I also use this same platform to say, hey, it's okay to get help. It's okay to process trauma, pain, unpack transition. Every therapy session is not doom and gloom, at least mine aren't. I've had so much growth, y'all. Some of my sessions, we talk about crawfish and corn because I really don't have nothing to talk about anymore.
Crawfish, okay.
Well, you know, Atlanta is full of, I just love the seafood. And so there are times where I'm like, I spent $125 for this session because there's been so much growth and healing. And I'm excited that the sessions are going from 4 to 2 to 1 to maybe I won't need it as much, but I love processing. I love calling my therapist. I love when we have sessions and I can talk about something that I grew in, or I can talk about, I didn't respond. I didn't react to this. I responded to this. And so I'm loving. So y'all try it out, please. It's amazing.
As you said crawfish, I was like, you talk a lot about food.
I love food. It don't look like it, but don't get it twisted. I love food.
You also said Bootylicious, which was followed by a gospel album. You did that.
I did.
So you can talk about anything. Really.
I can talk about anything. I grew up in a very religious family, and who would have known that I'd do R&B and then be the first one in the group to release a solo album and it'd be a gospel album. But my faith is my foundation. My faith is the reason why I am sitting here with you. In 2018, I didn't care if I lived or died. I honestly didn't care. I was like, I've lived a great life. Did Coachella. I've done Super Bowl. I met Sting, my imaginary husband. Life is good. You hear me? Bought my mama a house. They're good. They're fine. All is well. But I'm so thankful of my faith. You know, I don't know if I ever questioned it. I think I ran from faith. I think I ran from faith because sometimes faith requires work. And before growth, pain precedes growth.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so the couple sessions before us, we're coming to the end here, were about the future and the vision that people have for their healthcare companies and healthcare as a whole. So what is next for you? You have a book and you launched a podcast with the same name, right? Checking In.
Yes, I do have a podcast called Checking In on iHeartRadio on the Black Effect Podcast Network. I really believe I am cemented in my purpose and calling. Music will always be there. Tomorrow night, y'all better not leave because I am performing tomorrow night, which I do not do. I rather make impact through my words. But when an opportunity like this came, I said, okay, I'll bring the other microphone out and I'll sing. The band is here and we're very excited about just jamming out with y'all tomorrow night. My impact and calling is what I'm doing right now.
So are you going to write any more books?
I would love to write more books. I do have a journal coming out in February called The Daily Check-In. So that's called that book is called Checking In, but the daily check-in will definitely help you with those 3 pillars. Checking in with yourself, checking in with others, and checking in with God.
I love that. Well, thank you
for
being here, and thank you for helping us close out an amazing first day.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wish the ones that stayed get like extra credit or something.
Is there extra credit?
Is there certification? Are y'all getting certification for being here? You know, some certain conferences, you get certification.
You like CMEs and things. Continue.
You get cool points with me, that's for sure.
That's what you get. All right. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for being here and staying.
Thank you.